And now let us prepare our heart and minds for a time of meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position in your seats. Close your eyes if you wish, and take a few deep breaths. Let go of any distractions or worries that may be on your mind. Centered now in this moment, this divine now.
All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. Twists and turns unexpected, day by day moving on. I don't have all the answers, but come what may, right or wrong, all we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. Crashing waves touch the shore. Time moves faster every day. Ebb and flow, no control. All that's left to say is all we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. Help each other through.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
So I invite all of us to take a moment as we join together. All we can do is work with each other, help each other. And so let's do that right now. And interestingly, I also chose a prayer by Ernest Holmes to take into meditation. Although I have changed some of the wording, but this whole idea of us being one with one is what I want to share with you today. And so I want to begin with the first line of Charles Fillmore's invocation, which always speaks to me, that we are in the presence of pure being. We are now in the presence of pure being. And so as we relax into our seats, as we release all that we may be holding on to, any thoughts or cares or worries, we just let it go as we affirm that we are in the presence of pure being, here now. believing and knowing that this pure presence is the center of our being, at the center of others. And we now invite this divine presence to illumine our thoughts, to guide us in everything we say and do. And in this quiet moment of self-realization, we truly feel the presence. We believe we are meeting the divine face to face, heart to heart. We feel the vitality of all that is, the aliveness that is at the center of our being. All the energy, the enthusiasm for life is flowing through each one of us right now, circulating within every single atom of our physical being. Feel that aliveness. It's animating every single organ, bodies. It's animating every action we take today, every function of our physical bodies is invigorated and filled with this divine presence. So as we feel the inflow and the circulation of spirit within us, it brings us to life on this day. In joy, in gladness, we recognize the oneness of presence. Surely the presence is here. And as we focus on our breathing, moving in and out, we activate a feeling of gratitude for this truth. One presence, one power, one life. Our true wholeness never leaves us. Closer than our very breath. And we rejoice in the beauty of this day, knowing that each one of us is here to be the one to make the difference in our world, to be the presence of kindness and caring and divine love, here and now. Let this gratitude expand and radiate throughout our bodies and beyond as we create an energetic field of harmony and peace. We are in the presence of pure being. And we met with the world on this day. Let's just take a moment in the silence as we continue to feel the gratitude and let it emanate from within us. And for the opportunity to be the avenue through which is the world on this day. We give great thanks. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Jane. Look around, what do I see? Good or bad, it's up to me. My world reflects what I believe, and here's what I believe. I know there's good in everyone. I know the best is yet to come. Look out, world, 'cause I'm not done. I've only just begun to love like crazy, shine like gold. Be courageous, break the mold. Can't do it all, but this much is true. I can do what I can do. I'll choose compassion over fear. Release my love into the atmosphere, like a single move in an endless sea. Any change begins with me. I'm gonna love like crazy, shine like gold. Be courageous, break the mold. Can't do it all, but this much is true. I can do what I can do. And when I feel I'm all alone, I remember one drop of water smooths the stone. Gonna love like crazy, shine like gold. Be courageous, break the mold. Can't do it all, but this much is true. I can do what I can do. I can do what I can do. I can do what I can do.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for being here. You know, today is usually my day off, but then there was Sue Riley and Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons going to be here today. And gosh, I had to be here too. And because these two ladies have made such a difference in our unity movement. I've known them both for 20 some years now, and they've made a difference in my life. They've always been committed to the unity movement. And Reverend Dr. Jane, she's just a heart opener. I've taken classes with her. I've heard her preach. I've watched her videos. She was in youth and family ministry for a while, if I recall. I believe I had a class there at Unity Village. And my heart is just always full after I've been with Jane. I'm currently serving in a committee team with her, and I finish up and I'm there. Oh, it's so good to be with Dr. Jane. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Jane. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you too, Sue. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you, Reverend Rich. And you know, when somebody says something, how you can see that the same is true about them, that whenever I'm with Reverend Rich, I have the same heart-opening experience. Because Reverend Rich, I have to say, you are one of the most heart-led people I know in our movement. And it just feels good to be with you. So back at you. And it feels good to be with all of you today. Thank you for inviting me back. It's wonderful to be here and to share my talk entitled, let's see, I have to get my slides up here. There. Can you see me in the corner? This is a new thing for me. But anyway, my talk is called Solutionary Thinking, Cultivating a Wholeness Mindset. Now, to be clear, I didn't make up the word word solutionary, you might have thought I did. It's from a book called The Solutionary Way by Zoe Wheel. And her definition of what it means to be a solutionary is to identify systemic issues and develop healthy solutions that benefit everyone in that's part of the system. And in order to do that kind of work, we need to have a wholeness mindset. So we're going to sort of unpack that this morning and explore what that might look like. Now, in the book, she begins by telling the story of a time as a teacher when she was working with a fifth grade class. And she asked the students to brainstorm all the problems they could think of that were currently facing on the planet. And the students had no problem coming up with quite a comprehensive list. It seems the youth were very well versed in the issues, the challenges that are up for us as a human family. And then after making the list, she asked, how many of you think you could do anything to solve any of these problems? She was sad to see there were 2 or 3 hands that went up. It was obvious they didn't hold out much hope that anything they could do would make much difference. So then she asked them to get out their journals and to write about the world they wanted to live in and to get very descriptive about it, really describe what that world is going to be like in detail. And so the students dove into their writing. They were very descriptive of what that world was. And when they had all finished writing, now she asked them, how many of you think that your actions could contribute to creating this world that you have just described? Well, guess what? Every hand went up with enthusiasm. They were now being led by a vision instead of trying to fix all these problems that are happening. And they could see that their actions could matter. That's a really important point in wholeness, a wholeness mindset, knowing that your presence matters, that what you do could have a difference. So a wholeness mindset boils down to recognizing the oneness and living the reality of unity's basic principle. There is only one presence, one power. In my life, in the universe, we're talking about one life that lives itself through and as all beings on the planet, right? And so it's actually living that truth, not just kind of parroting it or speaking it or intellectually understanding it. It's living our lives and living the truth of it. Because when we do that, we understand that all of us are essential parts of the wholeness, of the whole system, and that what we do matters. And it's realizing that our lives are not isolated affairs, that while we may be unique individuals within that oneness, that's true, we're never separate. We're not separate from one another. And what we do matters. What we do affects others. We are quantumly entangled, if you will. Or I love, as the naturalist John Muir puts it, we're hitched to each other. We're all hitched together. Thich Nhat Hanh called it interbeingness. It's an interrelated way of living our lives as if we were all connected as one, and what that might be like and how differently we might experience our lives. And as I read about these students and their experience, I remembered one time during a workshop when one of the exercises we had to do was to get with a partner and to design the perfect city. And we could take the city we were living in and redesign it so that it was the perfect city. And I mean, here's a rendition of what we came up with. Ours, believe me, was much more primitive. We had a piece of flip chart paper and a Sharpie. You know, that's what we did. But as we got into it, throughout the whole room, you could feel the energy rising as we were doing this work together. And my partner and I became very inspired, very excited about envisioning a city with an abundance of healthy food and ecologically sustainable energy and affordable housing for all, community organic gardens, composting, recycling, bike paths, youth programs, walking trails, green space everywhere, pet friendly. We really got into it, believe me. And by the time my partner and I got to share our vision, guess what? I could see myself in that city. I could feel what it would feel like to live in a place like that. And it really excited me. And if you would have asked me, do you think any of your actions today could help to start to bring this vision into reality? I would have said, yes, I do. That's how exciting it was. And that's very important for us if we want to become solutionaries. We need to get ourselves into that place. You know, Unity's third principle is usually boiled down to something like change your thinking, change your life. And that slogan is the truth, but it's not the whole picture. We have to change the way we feel as well. Focusing on what you want to have happen, and not only that, but feeling the way you're going to feel when that vision comes into reality, and then sustaining that feeling while you take steps to help it emerge into manifestation. We're talking about this formula: thought plus feeling plus action equals transformation. It's very powerful. And guess what? The feeling is the rocket fuel that can bring it forth. That's the feeling. It's the rocket fuel, especially the feeling of gratitude. The gratitude is such a powerful practice for us to take. And it isn't that we get what we want, to see happen, and now we feel thankful for it. No, that's just, saying thank you after the fact is just good manners, right? But being grateful before its manifestation and during the time we are bringing it into reality through the steps we're taking, that's what David Owen Ritz calls kick butt gratitude. Kick butt gratitude. It's generative. You see, it acts the rocket fuel that can make it happen. And so here's what we want to get. Feeling the way we're going to feel when it comes to pass is not the end result of transformation. It's the prerequisite. We got to get there first. In fact, that is called faith in action. I read that the letters of the word faith stand for feel as if the thing happened, and then act as if. Keep on bringing that vision into reality as you feel the way you're going to feel when it comes, and continue taking steps with that feeling as the rocket fuel. Florence Scovel-Shinn, who is an old-time Unity New Thought author, explains why doing this is so effective. We begin midwifing what we're envisioning into manifestation when we feel as if the thing happens. And the reason is we are essentially impressing upon the subconscious mind not only the picture of what we want, but the conviction of its fulfillment. Now, can you feel the difference there? We're not just giving ourselves a little vision to look at. We're getting this feeling like it has already happened, like it's going to, it's a reality. And when our faith registers the idea in the subconscious with conviction, it actually puts us into alignment with a vibration of success. And that is solutionary thinking. So what happens if we don't do that? If we look through the eyes of separation, if we focus on what we don't want, believing that these outer appearances are the cause of our suffering and that there's nothing we can do about it, that carries a stiff penalty for us. I'm a Canadian. I had to put in some hockey stuff here. Sorry. And what that penalty is the burden of limitation. We burden ourselves. It's a self-imposed penalty where we have the burden of limitation. We have the suffering of anxiety and fear, hopelessness. All those things are what happens when we don't get ourselves into the rocket fuel of gratitude and feel the way we want to feel. And we now become, and this word I did make up, a problematarian. So we have solutionaries and then we have problematarians, which means seeing only the problem, problematizing, if you will, or awfulizing, if you know what that means. But as Phil Knight reminds us, if the problem is all that we're seeing, we're not seeing it clearly. Now, of course, we don't want to stick our head in the sand, pretend that there's no problem here. We don't want to do that. We don't want to hide from our problems. We certainly don't want to be in psychological denial about what's happening in our world. However, if that's all we see, there's no room for transformation. There's no room for transformation. We get stuck in a chronically pessimistic viewpoint that tells us this is just how life is. We can't change it, right? The glass is half empty, no matter how I look at it. And then we eventually land on, what can one person even do anyway? Why do I even try and bother? And I don't know about you, but as I'm looking around at what's currently happening in this country, I can very easily get into a problematarian attitude. So it's very important that I keep asking myself, am I being a solutionary right now or a problematarian? Let me think about that. So while we want to stay very aware of the issues, at the same time, we want our focus and our energy to be on what we want to have happen, taking small steps to bring it into being. Julia Cameron is the author of The Artist's Way, among other books, says this: we are spiritual beings with spiritual business to transact in this physical plane. And I love that. We're spiritual beings. We got spiritual business to transact. Let's get to it here. And to me, that means we are here to embody the change we want to see, to embody the transformation that we're looking to create in our world, instead of being just at the mercy of whatever is showing up every single day and trying to deal with these outer problems. Do you know what I'm talking about here? Because I think it's important for us to be shifting if we're getting stuck in all of this. And I know I have been. Buckminster Fuller, a wonderful designer, he's one of my personal heroes. I just love him and his work. And he says this: don't fight the existing reality, build a new one that makes it obsolete. And I love that. So just imagine if creating a new paradigm of living and making the old paradigm obsolete is the spiritual business we're here to transact. Can you imagine that? Maybe that's our work. Now, what you may not know about Buckminster Fuller, and we see all of the wonderful things he did, was that he was such a nonconformist. He got kicked out of Harvard, not once, but twice. He struggled with alcohol, depression. He even attempted suicide. So how did he turn his life around so successfully, so completely? Well, on the verge of taking his own life, he clearly heard these words coming from within him. You don't have the right to eliminate yourself. You belong to the universe. And the voice went on to say, assume you are fulfilling the role if you apply yourself to converting your experiences to the highest advantage of others. And when he heard this, it helped to find a new perspective that turned his life around. It led him to this higher purpose. Don't fight the existing reality. Make it obsolete. Convert whatever's happening to you right now for the highest advantage of all. That is a wholeness mindset. That is understanding that what we do matters and that it affects everyone. And I believe that that can happen to an even greater degree when a group of people comes into alignment with a wholeness mindset, sharing a common vision, collaborating on being the change, feeling the way they will feel when this vision comes into fruition. Now things can skyrocket. They can skyrocket because having a collective visionary viewpoint outranks the issues. Let me say that again. Having a collective visionary viewpoint outranks the issues that have been plaguing us. Margaret Wheatley says, there's no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. He calls these communities that start to make a difference islands of sanity. I love that. So discovery is the first step. Next, we want to coalesce with the transformation that we're seeking. We want to coalesce with that. And we do that as we embody the change itself. We live the truth of oneness. We awaken the power of the collective heart. See, do not underestimate the power of that. Do not underestimate the power of awakening the collective heart. So how do you want the future to be? What future do you want to coalesce with? How about a kinder one? How about one that is more compassionate with equal opportunity for all? A world that is ecologically sustainable and safe, where everyone is treated with respect and dignity, regardless of what they look like or where they're from or who they love. If that world came to pass, how would you feel? What would you do? Feel and do those things now. Whatever future you want to coalesce with, feel and do those things now. And the actions we can be just baby steps, but they need to be elevated into wholeness consciousness, you see, from the knowingness that our presence matters, that what I'm doing here right now may just be a baby step, but it matters. It's part of the whole, the whole solution right here. And the more we embody and live that vision, the more we begin to look at love, more empowered, solutionary perspective, and we begin to midwife them into reality. But it is so easy, isn't it, to be focused only on the problems that when we look around and see what's happening in our world, blatant political corruption, vindictive, cruel, callous behavior, climate-related disasters, shocking violence. The daily news brings yet another outrage. I recently read that it feels like a cross between a soap opera and a horror story. But here's the thing, it can only be scary if we're looking through the lens of duality, through the lens of limitation. When that happens, we start questioning on earth, can it possibly ever change? And we get lost in the anxiety that comes with that way of thinking, you see, and we lose access to the field of possibility. We disconnect from our conscious awareness of our oneness, our interrelatedness, our connection to source. And the wholeness mindset that we're trying to get devolves into polarized thinking. And that's why maintaining a sense that what we want has already happened is so important, because it appears that the problems we're facing are huge, insurmountable, never ending. There's a saying, problems scream and solutions whisper. It seems coming at us from all directions and are too big to handle. But moving to a wholeness mindset, becoming a solutionary, entails remembering one vital point. All these problems, no matter how diverse or unrelated they seem to be, no matter how loudly they're screaming, they all have the very same cause. They stem from a mistaken belief in separation. All of it. A belief that we're separate from infinite source, from each other, from nature. It's the cause of all of those things. This is a spiritual issue that we're facing right now. John Randolph says, correct that error, and the rest are solved. Work on that, this mistaken belief in separation. So how do we do that? It begins with realizing that what I believe is separation is not the truth. I told that it's a hallucination, it's an illusion. Deepak Chopra calls our separated self a socially induced hallucination. And from that hallucination, from that illusion, from that mistaken belief, all of the us and them polarized thinking emanates. Duality, othering each other, otherness, misperception, reactivity, competition, lack, not enough, defensiveness, all of it. And the ego digs in, you see, and finds its energy precisely something to oppose. Father Richard Rohr calls this reactive tendency our universal addiction. But here's the thing, wholeness can't and will not be revealed to eyes that are stuck in ego separation. Just won't happen. And this sense of separation that we believe is the truth, it blocks us to access to our deeper self. And a feeling of lack will naturally emanate from a belief in separation. Why? Because it takes life from our wholeness when we're stuck in that. We're living a fragmented life. Of course we would have a sense of lack. How could we not? We walk in an atmosphere of beliefs, whatever they may be. The solutionary perspective moves us out of strictly either into both and holism. It is holistic discernment. It's a higher order of intuitive thinking, intuition, that can now rise up. And when I'm in that space, I can see so much more than I could when I was stuck in the polarized thinking. So much more. Why? Because if I'm stuck in that thinking, I'll be defending what I believe to be true, my viewpoint, my opinion, needing to be right, all that stuff. And I won't be free to see anything different than what I'm already seeing. It's like the famous Buddhist story of the blind man and the elephant, each experiencing one aspect of the elephant depending on what they're touching and thinking that's all it is. Oh, an elephant is a rope. No, it's a spear. No, it's a wall. And I love that the elephant is giving them all side eye because of all the misperception going on. But you see, this is exactly what I do when I become stuck in my point of view and believe that my view is the only view, or my view is the right view. And if I change that belief, however, I will change what I see. The belief is the lens through which I'm looking. When I change the belief, it'll change what I see, and I'll be free to see multiple perspectives. I'll recognize the truth of interbeingness as the reality of being connected to all of humanity. And when that happens, now it becomes possible to live in wholeness rather than separation. Now, previously unknown possibility, unrealized potentiality can be liberated. And we can create miracles. Just before the Berlin Wall came down, the communist leader, Erich Honecker, was asked how long he thought it would take for this wall to come down. And he said, this wall is secure for at least another 100 years. Less than 100 hours later, the wall was down. So it may appear to be impossible, the kinds of things we're facing, but that's the power of focused collective visionary consciousness. Focused collective visionary consciousness. And the literary writer Maria Popova says, this is how the world changes. We loosen our stranglehold of our givens, she says, which is our opinions, our assumptions, our beliefs. And when that happens, our vision can expand, loosening the stranglehold of our givens. Moving to a wholeness mindset individually can help to change the world because cultural evolution is directly linked to and bound up with our individual evolution of our inner consciousness. The two co-evolve. They're hand in hand. And as we experience our life more and more as a co-arising within this interconnected web of life, which is the true wholeness that we are, then our consciousness will continue to evolve as well. You see, the two work together. And it'll be reflected in our cultural evolution. As each one of us awakens to the oneness and lives our lives that way, we begin to contribute to the culture moving into this understanding. And as Dr. King reminds us so eloquently, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. What happens to one happens to all. Now, unfortunately, there is no 10-step PowerPoint presentation that tells us how to find the true wholeness that we are. And I got to tell you, my ego hates that, because searching, discovering, seeking, finding, these are all verbs the ego is very, very comfortable with, very much at home, loves to have a task, loves being on a quest, which is all well and good. But here's the sticking point. What we're looking for, we're looking with. You can't search for what you already are. You can only awaken to it. Do you see? Awaken to and speak from your wholeness. Surrender to its flow. Allow it to emanate. Become it. And every single time we speak words from our wholeness, words of love, gratitude, compassion, kindness, caring, empathy, gentleness, understanding, benevolence. Every single time we operate from joy or come from what the Hindu faith calls our guardian heart, every time we are speaking as the divine. We are the avenue through which spirit now can express on this planet. And make no mistake in the power of that. And as we continue to experience life as our whole self, we evolve a little more into being the change that we're seeking in the world. It just keeps on growing and expanding. And evolutionary transformation is all about surrendering more and more to our true self. Do you see that? To who we've come here to be. That is right now, as we speak, shining brightly from within every single one of us. Only our belief in separation keeps it hidden. That's it. It's that belief that we have to get beyond. So we can choose to purposefully evolve our hearts and minds, and as we do, we contribute to our culture's evolution. We are so much more than we know, and we do not serve the world by playing small. We do not. And it's time for us. It's time for us to be truly free, to awaken, to be who we've come here to be, here to make a difference in our world, not to just get buried by all the problems that seem to permeate our culture. And I believe we are at a juncture in our unfolding as a culture, and the world needs us to be solutionaries. It needs us to live from our wholeness, to become the change that we seek in the world. And as we practice together this evolutionary, integral spirituality, here's what we become: emissaries of a better future. Emissaries of a better future, a kinder, safer, more compassionate and caring world. So let me ask you, are you ready to be a solutionary and bring that world into being? The correct response is yes. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And thank you all for being here.